Everybody is going to want to know, what is your diet? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I talk about this in the book, I really focus on cellular biology when I think about diet. And the diet that I've presented in Good Energy, it's very first principles. It's not dogmatic. It's about what molecular components do we know support the cell in doing its best work? Because if a cell is functioning properly, like we don't have symptoms. So I think one framing when I talk about diet that people need to realize is that all symptoms and all disease are necessarily the result of cellular dysfunction. There's no symptom or disease that arises in a vacuum. There is cellular dysfunction happening if you have a symptom or disease. And one of the key ways that we help our cells function properly is the 70 metric tons of molecular information that we put in our mouths in our lifetime, right? That both builds our body, literally builds the structure of the cells, and also tells the cells what to do, change their epigenetics, our cell signaling, our genetic expression. So really thinking about food as molecular information. And when I was really looking at like what are the components that cells can benefit from in their journey to function properly, there were 5 things that I think are important. One is, I'll start with the one that is so relevant to you, which is healthy protein. Like protein is an incredible signal. Like we have, well, I'll run through them all first and then we can talk about them a little bit. So the 5 things that I think are really important for healthy cellular function that we should include in every meal is healthy protein, antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, a probiotic source, and a fiber source. And so for different reasons, each of those can signal to our cells good function. I mean, you talk about this better than anyone literally on the face of the planet, but healthy protein is like a signaling molecule. We have literally nutrient sensing cells in our gut that see the amino acids and it changes the expression of what they do. I think it's so funny, the whole like GLP-1 agonist conversation and like everyone, we're having this fever pitch about these medications that are exogenous GLP-1 analogs, when in reality, when a nutrient sensing cell in the gut, the L cell, is stimulated by specific amino acids, valine is one of the ones, but others, glutamine, arginine, others, when it actually senses those amino acids, it produces GLP-1 in much higher concentrations. So certainly there's a utility for these drugs in certain patient populations, but everyone in America, given the obesity epidemic, should know how to stimulate their own satiety hormones with specific food nutrients. So protein for so many reasons. Obviously, it's also a signal to our cells for anabolic processes, for building and maintaining muscle mass, so many other purposes. But then we look at antioxidants. One of the biggest root causes of the diseases and the symptoms that we have today is excess oxidative stress. It's this like firestorm happening inside our cells that we have the power through 3 ways to actually improve with our diet. We can eat antioxidants, we can reduce our consumption of pro-oxidant foods, and we can also express antioxidant genes in our cells through other foods. So that's a key one. Fiber, of course, is going to feed our microbiome, which is going to then produce short chain fatty acids, which have a whole range of positive metabolic benefits. Our probiotic sources, similar to the fiber, are going to support our microbiome and help us create the diversity and abundance of healthful bacteria in our gut that is so relevant to all aspects of mental and physical health. And the omega-3 fatty acids are so critical because if we're eating good omega-3 sources, first of all, we're going to be eating some really beautiful whole foods like fish and seeds and nuts that have these compounds, but they are so important as a signaling molecule in our inflammatory cascade. And just like oxidative stress, chronic inflammation is one of the key root causes of our chronic disease epidemic and the symptoms we're facing. And omega-3s, which incorporate into the cell membrane, literally form a substrate for anti-inflammatory immune chemicals that can, be very important in resolving inflammatory processes in the body. So all that is to say, when we focus on getting those 5 components in most all of our meals, and the way we do that is by having a short list in our head of our favorite sources of each of those things, of the protein, omega-3s, antioxidants, fiber, and probiotic sources. Have your little mental list of your favorite things in each of those categories, stock your kitchen with them, and then it's very mix and match. Just like grab your hemp seeds, grab your sardines, grab your beef, whatever it is, and make a meal that has those. And eating becomes much, much simpler. So anyways, that's really how I try and focus my eating is component based more than dogma based. And those components could go from, they could work for keto, they could work for vegan, they could work for paleo, they could work for like ancestral diets, maybe not carnivore, just because I do talk about fiber. But one fascinating thing about fiber and carnivore, and I actually make this caveat in the book, is that one of the short chain fatty acids that your body makes when you eat fiber is butyrate.
Right.
And we also make butyrate on a very low carb diet in a different way by actually producing it through fat oxidation. And so even though carnivores aren't eating fiber, they're still making a very similar molecule to what the microbiome makes and are kind of getting it in a different way. And so that's the one I would say exception. But long story short, I focus on getting those 5 components and eliminating all refined grains, refined sugars, and refined seed oils. And that's how I focus on my diet.
It's interesting because it shows how adaptable the body is. You'd mentioned carnivore, and yes, the carnivore diet is low in fiber, but the body can adapt and make butyrate.
Yeah.
The body is amazing, and I would argue that it can adapt to various types of diet. You talked about protein, you talked about antioxidants, omega, probiotic, and fiber. What are your favorite, and I want to go through each of these because I'm curious as to know what your favorites are. What's your favorite protein source?
I'll run through them super fast. And basically, if you go to my kitchen, and I've posted videos of my kitchen, this is essentially what is my kitchen based on what I'm about to say. It's my favorite sources of each of these things. So for protein, I have a freezer full of ground game meats, which I get from both hunters and also from Force of Nature or other really wonderful regenerative companies. So for protein, it's ground elk, ground bison, ground venison, ground grass-fed beef, ground regenerative pork. I'll have pasture-raised chicken breast, chicken thighs, turkey, things like that. So basically lots of really sustainably sourced meats. I also do happen to love beans and legumes for protein, and they don't affect me at all in a negative way. I know this for a fact because my HSCRP is less than 0.3. So for people who say that they're inflammatory, check your biomarkers. But beans and legumes and meat. And then I like eggs, but eggs also aren't the best protein source. Like 6 grams per egg. So I usually supplement a little bit of my protein each day with about 3 eggs, but mostly it's the meat that I get the protein from, really regeneratively sourced.
What about the antioxidants?
Antioxidants, it's just a kitchen full of farmers market fruits and vegetables, as colorful and rich colors as possible. So I just try and get as many. I basically shop for my fruits and vegetables based on color, not based on type, because I can cook with any vegetables and low glycemic fruits. So purples, reds, yellows, greens, etc. Lots of colorful fruits and vegetables. But the main antioxidant, the highest antioxidant sources are actually spices, tea, cocoa. And so using a lot of cocoa in my cooking, like 100% organic cocoa, tons of spices, and then teas as a drink. Like green tea, those are some of the highest antioxidant sources. And then some nuts and seeds have antioxidants. The highest antioxidant nut of all of them is pecans, actually. So by like a large margin. So I eat a lot of pecans. For probiotic sources, I love sauerkraut. I have like 5 different types in my fridge from the farmer's market: organic beet and cabbage sauerkraut, carrot sauerkraut, things like that. I love kvass, which is a low sugar kombucha alternative. Instead of using sugar and tea to make a fermented drink, it actually just uses beets and water, and that's it. So the fermented drink is basically from fermenting the carbohydrates with beets. I love kimchi, and I love unsweetened, full-fat, grass-fed yogurt. And so those are my main probiotic sources. For fiber, it's basil seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, beans, legumes, raspberries, which is the highest fiber, fruit, and avocados, which are very oddly super high fiber. So those are my main fiber sources.
I know, it is odd when you look at the breakdown.
It's like 13 grams of fiber or something. But chia seeds and basil seeds are great because they have like 5 grams of fiber per tablespoon, and they're easy to sprinkle on salads. And then for omega-3s, it's a pantry full of canned wild-caught fish that I put on top of lots of different things. So I have wild-caught salmon, wild-caught mackerel, wild-caught sardines from Wild Planet. I love those. Those will have like 2,000 milligrams of omega-3s per package. And then in terms of plant-based omega-3s, I love hemp seeds, flax seeds, basil seeds, and chia seeds. And then certainly wild caught or regeneratively raised beef has a decent amount of omega-3. So that's kind of the spectrum of pretty much what I eat.